All right, you know what it is. It's the boy, Kamal Hart on the chart, and we're going bar by bar. So, let's see what we got today. Little leg up, some congestion, then another leg up, and kind of like a ranging area. You can pretty much see this no problem. So we had a breakout, move to a new high, and then for the most current price action, see if I can get this a little longer. See, oh shit. I don't know how I got two drawing tools at one time. I've never done that before. Um, Kind of looking at maybe this is the lows. Possibly we have the highs up here. So that's what I'm looking at to start the morning. I'll get a midline in there as well. Probably like there. Could be a little. My computer is spazzing today. What's that about? Okay, so just the basic lines to start off with. We're clearly kind of trending higher. Let's see what happens when we test this high side. Um, Here's the failed second entry short right there, but it's too close to the high, so I wouldn't really worry about that trade. But it triggers here. It doesn't give you anything you could have used. But here's the like a second entry long actually. This green bar right here. It's a second entry long. It's a little aggressive, but if you saw that, you might consider that. Um, so for the most part, I think we're going to actually end up moving this down to there. And then this will probably end up being somewhere in here. Can't get it to look good today. Somewhere in there. Close is usually close enough. Let's just make sure. Yeah, it's not too far off. So what we see here is my first trade of the day. Essentially, what I was going for when I went short right there, I was just looking at kind of a triple top, 1, 2, 3, and I was just waiting for prices to break below. And you can see how there's like this triple bottom right there. I had a stop order waiting just below because I was really expecting it to break on this bar or this bar. But then when it made this third bar, I kind of already knew that was not a good setup, but I don't know. I was just being dumb and I didn't take my order off the screen. You never really want to short below like a triple bottom like that. Um, yeah, I ignored that and got stopped out. So that was my first trade, and this was a trade where I sized up on. I had 3 contracts on this trade, um, which if we didn't have that triple bottom, I would have been more okay with. But once we started getting these double bottoms, even if I leave this trade, I need to at least size down back to 2 contracts. So I kind of just made a mental error, and I wasn't proactive enough on that trade. Um, but then on this very next bar, we kind of get a really nice trigger bar close, and it's a second entry short to this low. You see this first entry and then second entry. So I was cool re-entering here. Kind of just looks like a failed break higher. So I like this trade. You can see I got in right there on the limit. Then I got my scalp. I sized down to 2 contracts since I had already lost. I lost a full 2 points on this trade. This was like a really unfortunate trade because I went big and lost big. But so I sized down here I got the scalp, got a few extra ticks on the scalp because I entered on the limit a couple ticks back. So I was able to take a 2 extra tick of profit. And then really I had to target 1 tick below the lows over here for my runner. And all we got to do now is just wait. Right here we have that lower high pattern. I'll put that on the chart. There's a trade right here as well, like a lower high pattern. It's still working. You might have gotten out there, but it's still working its way. I wouldn't take this reversal pattern though, because the way it sets up, this isn't very clean and it's really sideways. So I would have skipped the reversal. But I'm pretty cool entering on either one of these two entries up here. And then when I saw this, this is not really a setup, so I can't give the same sort of explanation on this trade. But essentially what I saw there is just that since the reversal pattern was so neutral, like because the real entry was right here, once it broke below right there, that was the real entry. But since it was so neutral, when we got this strong red bar, that looks a lot better. That's a lot more convincing. I was already still holding my runner at this point, so I wasn't gonna add on here. But if you saw that, you might have risked that trade as well. And then now we're just going sideways, and there's another lip right there. It's not really a setup. It's kind of sideways. I wouldn't enter there. I would just be holding my trades if possible. Then there I got my my runner exit. That was really not a good exit on my part. It was really one of those things where I had made back all the money from this loss, and then I had, you know, like $20 of profit or so, and I just exited because I wasn't sure if this would pull back hard or not. Recently, you know, they've been pushing through the midline and kind of pulling back, so I wasn't sure what would go on, and I just kind of took an undisciplined exit, to be honest. You can pretty much see that there's a trend right there as well. I should have been using that while I was holding this position. That would have helped me a little bit to stay in. You can see it breaks above, but then on, you know, it kind of works its way down. And then right there, I would have been 1 tick from my exit, and then I get my exit right there. So it was just a really, it was a really good trade idea going short there, but I didn't execute it flawlessly, and I left some money on the table for sure on that trade. So anyway, now we're kind of at the lows of our range, even though we still have a lot of price action. So I never want to lose context of the day that, you know, we really could trade all the way back down here. So I'm still not 100% on this low side. So I just got to wait to see for like higher lows and things. And then right there, you get the higher low. But see how that bar broke above the red bar? That's not the setup I want. But right here, I like this setup, the reversal bar, and this is going to be a pretty clean, almost a textbook trade. I like this one, you know, using that new rule as well, where when we have the trend moving down, we want to wait to take our long trades until we break outside of this trend. And you can see we've already broken outside. We're on the low side of the range, so basically we'd have our entry and then we'd have a runner target up here. We're closing above the EMA. This is a really good signal bar, you know, reversal pattern. So that's a really good place to take that trade. So I hopped in right there, and then I was able to get my scalp and my runner. Now on that runner, that was not a good exit either, if I'm being honest with myself. It's just not a good exit. I should have really waited for an exit signal. There's no exit signal yet. I've noticed actually, I do have a little bit of impatience holding my runner trades. It's surprisingly a lot harder than you would think to hold a trade that's winning. You know, sometimes you just want to lock in that profit, and you know, you miss the bigger move by being too, I don't know if it's greed or fear, but whatever makes you kind of exit early when you're green. Sometimes you leave money on the table, like there, you know, left some money on the table. And then, like, see the way this set up, um, this would have been my swing point, so my stop would have just been right there on the midline. So yeah, I mean, I get maybe an extra 3 ticks, maybe extra point, but it's not about how much money I made. It's about following my process. So that would have been a better way to follow my process. Anyway, um, and you can see we kind of get this bar up here and it pulling back. There's just nothing there. We're kind of just in the middle of the range. I wouldn't be too aggressive either way right now. I'm just waiting to see what sets up. Let's just move some of this over now. Okay. And you can see we kind of made a double bottom off that area, but we do eventually tick through. So I wouldn't have made so much more, but I would have felt better following the rules. In fact, right there, you get a congestion zone. So you could have maybe exited on the close right there because of the congestion. Either way, it is trying to retest this high. These aren't any long trades. If you were going to trade this, you really needed to have entered down here. It's not really worth it entering up here. You see how it just strongly pulls back. Now, an interesting thing right here that I see is this trade right here. That's a second entry long off this high. First entry, second entry. And then if you look, it's kind of a two-legged pullback. There's one leg, retrace, second leg. And it happens on the low side of the channel, right? That's where we want to be getting long on the lower side. It's a little close to the middle, so you know you always gotta be a little careful with that. But if you were to take that trade, that's kind of a place to do it. It's just a little aggressive because we're not coming off the lows. We're kind of just in the middle, so that's going to make this trade aggressive. But there are at least 2 reasons to enter right there. 3 reasons if you include, like, that's a pretty bullish signal bar. And it breaks above and closes back inside. It takes some time, but then it finally gets the push up right there. And then right there, you get that higher low, but we're too close to the middle. That's not really a good signal bar. If you were going to enter, it would have been here. All of these entries they're not really the ones we're looking for. And then here you get the reversal pattern, right, on this green bar. But we're obviously really close to the highs. It's aggressive up here. But you would have got a scalp at least. So you can see we are holding in this range pretty well. So that's a good sign. That's what we like to see. And then it sells off. So nothing too unexpected going on right now. I'm pretty much done for the day in terms of my trading. I already hit I didn't really hit my profit target, but I had somewhere to go and I had hit about half of my target. So I was okay with that for the day. Let's get that on there. Okay, so we're pulling down. So here's that lower high. See how it broke above, then closed on its very low. It's just such a big bar. That's the only reason I'm not into that. Well, there's 2 reasons I'm not into it. Okay, I think it is a big bar. That's reason one, and then reason two is it sets up on this lower side. That's not really where I want to get short. I want to get short on this side. And I just didn't get that opportunity on this leg. So probably skip that trade. I probably skip that one. But you can see though how on this bar, it even pulls back where if you had your limit order waiting at the midline or at this low right there, you would have gotten filled. It's just it's a little aggressive. It's just hard to watch prices trade all the way up here. That looks like a really, really bullish bar at the moment. And then once it closes back down, you're feeling a lot better. But at the high right here, that looks like a really bullish bar. That would have been challenging to have your limit, there. And look, see on the very next bar, it actually does come right back to it, you know. And here's your reversal pattern, this red bar right here. Honestly, I'm not against this trade by any means because that's a pretty good pattern. I just don't want to short on the low side. That's the only reason keeping me out. And it's also a big bar, but this is a good pattern off this high. Tried to go higher once, fails. Tried to go higher twice, and if it breaks below, it fails. That's a good aggressive trade. And you can see you get your scalp and almost get to those lows, and you get a low touch. So only a few things kept me out of this trade, but it's a pretty okay setup. So now that we're back at these lows, same thing as always. We want to get long. So let's just see what we get in terms of a setup. You get your it's kind of confusing. You get your higher low right there when it breaks above. So that's your high low, and then right here's your reversal pattern right there. Only thing here though is like we're so sideways. All these bars are just inside of each other. It's not really a good place to buy just because of the way it's set up. So I'd probably skip that, and I would wait for that breakout pullback or something. And it does shoot off though, but if you had a different setup, you would probably take this trade. But if it looks like the way mine's looks, it's a little too sideways. And then like right here is where I'd say it's a little better, where you could have possibly, when it broke below, then start trading up. Once it broke above this red bar, you could probably have your limit order right there. Let's see if you get filled. And you might not even have exited though. 23, 25. Yeah, it would have been a 4-tick fail. So that one would have worked. And it's just back to that idea of the reversal bar is this bar right there. This is the reversal bar. This is kind of like a breakout pullback from this area, but breakout pullbacks alone aren't enough. I need at least one more, and you really don't have one more entry signal. The bar is too big. Even though we're on the low side of the range, you just don't want to necessarily buy on the low side. You still need a second entry, a reversal, something like that. So now it kind of pushes, it's starting to push outside of our range. Like, see there? At this point, it's pretty much just a breakout. But if we get that breakout pullback, then I'm going to be a lot more interested in where we're going. Like right here, like, technically that's a breakout pullback. So I would at least have this on the chart. And then another thing that I'm going to start looking for as well is, oh man, like a measured move. Right? So let's just measure this and then look at the midline and just see maybe prices will get down in this area, the 33.12 area, and maybe that's where we'll get a bounce. We'll just have to kind of find out. All these trades here, it's nothing really. Here is like a second entry short. It just doesn't set up that nice. It's aggressive because really the setup is here on this signal bar. You can see that's a really nice bear pin bar, but then there's an inside bar, then this breaks above and closes. So you might short this bar. I'm going to say it's aggressive. just because of the way it sets up, it's not perfect. But you would expect it to test these lows at least. And then here's a, since it hit the EMA and it's turning down, I would almost, just to make sure, because this is another kind of breakout pullback, I'd almost have this line on the chart as well, just so I can see it and I don't get trapped, trying to get long or something. So I'd at least probably trade that. Then you can look, we're getting really close to this measured move, really close to that move. And you can see how we actually really bounce almost off of it. Over here you can see these lows, and we pretty much, that's where we bounced. So I probably have, and you can see that almost looks like an equidistant range. So I probably have this on the chart. Then you just go ahead and move that up. And then this could be your new midline. So now you have a two-tier range or a range expansion. And what I want to see is back to this idea of, if this is a downtrend, once we break out, that's when I want to start taking my longs. So we're getting that first breakout. Now let's see if we get any setups. See, like if you would have bought that prematurely, doesn't really go far. Yeah, you can see we're perfectly bouncing. Perfect bounce. So now we're outside. So that's a good sign. So here's your higher low, this bar. It's a little bit problematic because this bar is inside of this bar and inside of this bar. So technically this is congestion. There are some reasons you would still want to trade this. It's above the EMA, but you can't be too surprised if it hits up here and then reverses. So for that, I'm going to say it's an aggressive trade, but you might want to risk that. And you get the scalp, no problem. Then right here, if we break above right here, this is a reversal pattern as well. And this is a lot less aggressive, in my opinion, than this one was. So if you see that, I'd almost consider adding on in this situation. Or if you didn't take this trade, I'd feel more comfortable about this one. And you can see you also get the scalp there as well. But it's really something to be said about when you have this trend, you really should wait until you're outside of this trend to start taking those longs off the range. That will save you getting trapped a couple times. So we're touching this midline. There's been a reversal. I would be looking at a micro trend, something like that. Probably the highs, something like that. So you can see we're kind of bouncing off the trend line. Just kind of really going sideways. It's not leaving us enough room to really have a lip and enter on like a second entry. See how this basically sideways. So you would have been buying the breakout. Well, those are really great setups. So I'm just ignoring them. And then now that we're on this high side, I'm pretty much done going long till we pull back in here. Here's a first entry to the high. I'm not that interested in it. Here's a second entry to the high. It's not a great signal bar. In fact, this bar is kind of neutral. There's equal wick on both sides. It's kind of neutral. It's not that great. And you can see it breaks above and then breaks below, or maybe it broke below then broke above. I'm not sure. But either way, it's not really that great of a trade, and you for sure would have been stopped out by there. And then when it starts to pull back here, there's no count off the highs. It's just the first off the low. Yeah, so now that we're in this middle area, I'm just sitting on my hands pretty much watching this thing do what it does. You can see though off this trend we have a breakout, a move to a new high, almost a two-legged move. Leg one, the green pause bar, leg two. Here's that higher low, but we're on this upper side of the range. I'm not too interested in buying any of this stuff. And here's the reversal pattern, but it's still the same thing. I'm not that interested buying over here. In fact, really, if you took these trades, you're maybe still holding this trade, so I'm not worried about buying up here. And you see how you would have got in, got stopped out, and then it's working back higher. See how sideways, see how this is clearly congestion. So it's just nothing you really want to deal with in here. Just to make it a little more clear, you can clearly see how sideways all that stuff is. Right. So kind of a breakout fade. This bar's too big, just the first entry to the high. There's nothing there either. This is a breakout pullback now. Broke out, pulling back to the low side, and it's actually pulling back. So I would at least get this on my chart. Let's see what it does. Yeah, see that really pushes lower. A break below any bar from here is going to be our reversal pattern, but I don't really want to go short on this side, so I'm kind of stuck on my hands for a while for now. See, like right there, broke below, and then it closed back inside, and look at that congestion area. If I saw this, I'd scratch the trade. If I entered here, broke below, and then it closed back inside, I'd scratch. It's not a good sign. Just to make it painfully obvious what we're dealing with. Yeah. And you can see, like, you would have got the scratch, and if you didn't take the scratch, you would have got stopped out. But you don't get enough for a scalp on this trade. So whenever you see that like reversal, failed second entry, trap sort of trade, if this bar doesn't close outside of that previous bar, that means not enough people were trapped. It's pulling back pretty strong. That's a really strong. This kind of feels like that was out of nowhere. So this move invalidates this trend line right here. I'd just forget about this trend line pretty much. And we're getting close to these highs, so we're hopefully going to set up a short here soon. Don't want to go short there, even though it's a nice signal bar. It's technically a second entry short also, but just a little aggressive. Maybe we'll get a lower high. Like here's that lower high. It feels a little aggressive. I mean, there's a leg higher, a breakout. I say the edge is there. I think another thing to be mindful of is that there's some congestion as well. So you can't be too surprised if it doesn't hit this low and bounce right off there. You can see it right there. So really got to be careful. You're kind of taking that trade on the midline and there's not enough room to exit. So it's aggressive. Let's see if it gives us anything. Okay. You get your scalp and you get a little more. You see how that bar closed on those lows though. That means other people were probably seeing that. But you get just enough. If it breaks below here, here's the reversal pattern, but you're selling that breakout, and this bar is an inside bar. In my opinion, it's not a great setup, so I'd probably skip this one. I just don't like how it's so sideways, and it's going right into that EMA. It doesn't seem like the best setup in my opinion, and it stops you out. Um, I didn't know it would do that, but the key things on that to me is that this red bar is an inside bar. That's not, even though it looks really strong. Um, I wish I had the vocabulary to explain it. I don't think I have the vocabulary right now, but whenever you have that inside bar, the more important bar is the outside bar, and that's incredibly bullish, this bar, you know? So even though we broke below, you shouldn't be too surprised when it's set up for a long. And it reverses enough to stop you out and then goes exactly where you were hoping it would go. That's just, by now you can clearly see that prices are pretty much just going sideways. So, you need to be careful uh, what direction you trade. Interesting to note, I probably wouldn't have took the trade, but that's a second entry short right here. See off this low, when higher, first entry fails, and there's the second entry. It's not a great signal bar though, but it's just interesting that the second entry would have worked, even though it's not that great of a signal. Yeah, it would have really worked. Um, so as always, we kind of have a trend down. It's not that clean currently, but I could say off the lows, there's maybe a channel like here, and you could see like possibly there's another channel there, which means there's probably a breakout and a move to a new low. So let's run with this for now. But if this leg pulls back and then turns lower, I'll probably take a tighter channel. But you can see it's looking like it's responding to this channel. And then you can see right there, kind of tried to pull back and went lower, but it's definitely responding to this channel. So I think I'm gonna just stick with this channel for now. And now, yeah, see now it's kind of like a two-legged move down, starting to reverse. We were below the EMA, now we're above. We broke previous swings. So let's just be careful here. Have that there. If you would have taken this short, a couple things are going on. So if you took this short because it's like kind of a reversal pattern, you can see you entered, and now that it's closing back inside, you probably want to scratch. It's only a first entry to the lows, so it's not a great setup. And I really don't like when it breaks above a previous swing. And see how this closed above, and then even this bar, even though it is a nice bearish bar, it still closes above the swing. So that's telling us something. It's really just sideways, micro congestion zone, but it's just going sideways. But you can see even on a small scale, price action plays out. You can see that we had a little trend up, it broke outside, it moved to a new high. Same thing on the big picture. You can see how sideways all this is. I think a trade that I would not have taken, but I want to talk about is just this right here. It's like a reversal pattern from this low, off this low, goes lower once, it fails, goes lower twice, boom, you could have bought in right there above this bar. A little aggressive because it's so sideways, like I'm saying, but I just like to point it out that it was there and it would have worked. So we're kind of caught back up in this upper range again. It's a little hard to determine what trades to take. I'm still going to try and stick to going short, but you might You might think about some longs as well. So we're, you see we had that leg breakout. Now we're kind of trending back down. Only thing here, we just made a move lower. Let's see if we get a close. Okay, we got that close. So I'll give it a line. I was going to say that through here, it hadn't actually moved past any previous swings, but on this bar, it actually closes past a swing, so that's okay. Probably have that there. See, we're getting that breakout, and then the way this breakout happens, it just completely invalidates this. I don't need this anymore. So, and usually whenever I have a line and then it doesn't test the low, or like it doesn't break and retest the low and it just automatically shoots to the other side, that's my sign that it's definitely in a range. And we are clearly in a range. Everyone can see that we're in a range. But there might even be like a tighter range going on over here and like over here. So I'd probably just throw this on the chart now. There's a lower high, but you can see the triple bottom. You don't want to sell. That's like the first trade I took today. That's like not where you want to sell. And then it's kind of against our context. We have a micro trend going up. We're not looking for shorts until we get a reversal pattern. It never even breaks below, so it would not have mattered. You get this big red bar at the high, and that's a second entry short. I'm not going to sell this. I don't like selling these highs. I want to wait for a lower high. But you might be aggressive and sell that. And it doesn't pay off because you get kind of stopped out. And really you kind of get a breakout pullback right here as well, because you can see on this green bar we broke out, on this red bar we closed back inside, on this green bar we break out. So there might be a bigger trend going on through there. And what we want to see is, let's just see if it holds. Shoots off. It's only like 5 minutes left in the day, so I'm probably done anyway. You might have taken that reversal trade, but it would have been a little aggressive. Yeah, and that gets us basically to 12 o'clock, so I'd probably be done. There were some good trades early, for sure. Some really good trades early, but not that many. Not that many through the afternoon. After 9, I don't even see. There's some aggressive trades, right? Like, obviously, this one is aggressive, and then you could have maybe said that one's is aggressive. But those aren't really my bread and butter trades. So like, I really try to avoid trading those because it's just easy to make mistakes on them. But all the ones I marked are, obvious and fairly easy to see, in my opinion. But that's pretty much what we had today. I mean, I had a pretty good trading day. It's basically just a range day, 2-tier range. We worked lower, then we worked higher. Pretty straightforward, pretty standard. So that's what it is. Sometimes you don't get a bunch of trades, but I always say that's the biggest thing you have to kind of train your brain to realize, is that you only need one trade, one good trade a day, with the right size, contract sizing and stuff. You only need one good trade. So that's what it is. Anyway, I'm gonna get out of here. It's your boy Kamal Hart, and I'm out. Peace.